Hello and welcome to season 11, episode 11 of the Data Governance Podcast. And this week, we're discussing all things data quality rules and reporting. And I'm joined for the conversation by the lovely Daniel Donahue, one of the founders of DQ Pursuit. This episode is sponsored by DQ Pursuit. DQ Pursuit is the standard for identifying, controlling and correcting critical data. Their driving belief is that knowledge should be shared, not hidden. As such, their platform brings together critical data identification, data quality, data consistency, dashboarding and guided self-growth under one hub. Break free of your resilience on dissegmented tools while bringing power to the user with DQ Pursuit. When I first met Daniel, it was really clear that he's a very passionate evangelist of data governance, but more importantly, he's got this really deep understanding of unlocking the value of data quality within your high-value risk business processes, and I think that links in a lot with how I think people should do data governance well. Daniel believes that the robust challenges of quality for critical data through its data infrastructure journey. And I think it's fair to say from what you've told me, Daniel, it's that philosophy that's allowed you to successfully create data quality shops of scale for several mid to large size banks in the US. So welcome to the podcast, Daniel. It's lovely to have you here.
Oh, thank you very much. And I'm very pleased to be here, especially ahead of Big Data London. I would like to clarify one thing. You did mention I'm the founder. I am a founder. There's actually two of us. Subhan Husanoff is also a co-founder. And the two of us have stood up several data governance programs in the US, always within the banking environment. But that really harkens to our perspective of being a user of platforms and what is needed from a user perspective versus theoretically creating a data, in this case, data quality platform for the data governance space. So thank you again for having us.
No, it's great to have you. And I think it's really interesting because, as you know, I came from a banking background as well. And I think it's very interesting to think how your early experiences of data governance, perhaps in banking, then shapes you and how you view data governance. So I always love to ask my guests on the podcast the first question about how long have you been working in data? And I'm also going to add like a second question to that about how did you get into data governance? Because for a lot of us, it wasn't a conscious choice. I'm always intrigued as to how did it happen for you?
So I think, definitely in my case, I have always been involved tangentially through different roles I've had within banking environments that were always, it touched data. And I didn't realize I was such a data person because that was not the actual roles themselves. But it was after leading actually I managed the credit policies for small business lending during the economic downturn in 07, 08, 09 in the US. And it was through that process that you really had to validate and understand what was going on in a portfolio and report up to senior management around whether you needed to make changes to policies or underwriting guidelines. And it was through that activity, and it was because of that meltdown, that data governance became so prominent particularly in the US. But through that crash, understanding your allowance modeling, your capabilities, understanding what's being securitized, that insight blossomed into a role of saying, hey, look, this is somebody that understands data. Let's move him into a senior position so that we can get traction on this. And that was actually a very large US bank.
So I think it's really interesting, and I don't know whether you feel the same, is that, banks don't have any real tangible products. Their products are only data. I think most people naively think that there's stacks of gold sitting in, or dollars, pounds sitting in the bank in the safe, but there's not. It's mainly data, and it's always frustrated me in the early days, and still a bit these days, if I'm honest, that people in financial services don't think that their business is data, but really they are a data business. It is what they do. And I think it's sad that it took an economic crash to make people realize that.
Right. Oh, I agree. I agree with you. And with DQ Pursuit, we have our clients focus on identifying those high risk or high value business processes that are relying upon data to make decisions to drive the institution forward. Right. That is us at a core. And we always start there with let's identify the roadmap of areas you wish to bring under data quality management. Right. We start there. And that's often, one of the first pain points people ask, where do we begin? And a lot of it, honestly, a lot of it is not about actually writing data quality rules. It's around laying the right foundation to support the understanding of where to focus, who has which responsibilities, identifying which lines of, how you identify lines of business, and most importantly, how to consistently create a standard for identifying what's critical in your organization, right? So if you and I both work at excuse me, the same bank, for instance, if you have one means to identify what's critical and I do something different, the regulators are not going to be happy with that, right? And so we need, and we provide a standard approach that is also customizable for institutions. So you can create as many questions as you want, but we come out with a standard set of questions that we feel help separate what's critical in that particular process or model, and allows you to bring that under data quality management.
Yeah, I think I think that how you determine criticality is one of many pain points you experience when you're trying to do data quality. And I've had that. I'm sure you've had the same where you when I first meet you, you tell me all your data is critical because you're so important. And then as soon as I tell you I want to do some data quality reporting, you tell me, oh well, it's not all that important. I don't want to do that. So if that's one of the typical pain points, are there others that you've kind of experienced when you're trying to implement data quality rules and reporting?
Absolutely. And so first and foremost is what is the vision, like a 3-year vision of where we're going, right? And again, that harkens back to identifying the high risk or high value business processes you wish to bring under data quality management, right? Just like you can't boil the ocean in terms of examining every piece of data, you want to ensure you're going after the high value, high risk business processes first, identifying who owns them, and then identifying who, from a business perspective, because oftentimes we're in a provider subscriber model, right? Where downstream um, business processes are relying upon business line data that they're not accountable or responsible for correcting. And so in that case, right, and you have a many to many. Many business lines are contributing data to a particular model, but they're also contributing it to many models. So you have many upstream data owners contributing to many downstream business processes, right? And it's really important to understand that relationship, that many to many relationship, and that's what DQ Pursuit aces it. We have that linkage. We identify it upstream by the process. We have our lines of business accountable and data owners recognized on that. And when you are proposing change management within an organization, when you're proposing that change, you need to understand what downstream impacts could there be. And whether it's critical or not, DQ Pursuit helps tell you who is relying upon this piece of data downstream. And that's immensely important in our opinion, understanding potential change impacts and ensuring that there's no negative consequences.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I've seen both ends of the extreme of that, where either people just won't change anything because they don't know what's going to happen
Right.
and they're too scared that systems are going to fall over or regulatory reports will not happen or something scary. Or equally, I've seen people get really excited because, they've suddenly grasped this that we should make data better and they dive in and fix something without understanding and having unforeseen circumstances. And one was actually a system crashing, which was funny with the benefit of hindsight, not at the time, which is always it's hard because you don't want to say to people don't fix things, but you want to do it in a considered manner. And I love your point about doing it on the high value business processes
Right.
rather than everything. I was having a chat with one of my new training clients last week, and he came up with this brilliant phrase, which I've found much longer ways of describing over the years. About he says they inadvertently capture lots of data that they don't actually use. So
Right.
they've got processes in place where they've got loads of data and it's just not useful to go, let's do some data quality reporting on that. They're not using it. It's just like sitting in the, well, we're too busy to look at the moment pile, and we'll have a think about why is it we capture this, can we make it useful later? We really need to focus on the really important things. So I'm gonna have to talk about AI. Sorry, it's kind of something that
Oh, no, not at
everybody's
all.
talking about all the time these days, and I'm really interested in perhaps your thoughts on AI and data quality. Do you think it's a good thing? Will it make data quality more accessible to business users, do you think?
I think that you nailed it right there, the accessibility. And so the way that we built DQ Pursuit, we have a fully agentic AI model within it. It's embedded and it allows you to ask for as much help as you would like, right? So we have an investment management company also co-located in Boston here, and they're putting us in from a technology perspective, and these guys are highly skilled at writing their scripts, and they don't need AI at all. But what we also provide is that fully concierge approach to how much assistance would you like it to provide. And so we feel by lowering your technology requirements, by eliminating these offshore teams to build data quality or data consistency rules, by bringing that into the user's hands that can very quickly have AI build that data quality rule for them, show them the results, show them the pass records, the fail records, and if applicable, any records that were intentionally excluded from consideration of the data quality rule, right? So we feel like having that robust approach is responsible, but we also provide the user to say, hey, look, I have this, or I need a little bit of help, or I need you to do everything. And that's where I think AI can be of incredible value in a tool that looks at managing your data quality.
I mean, that just sounds amazing. Listening to you talk just then, Daniel, I was thinking back to in the days when I still used to act as like an interim data governance manager. One of the many times that we tried to introduce some data quality reporting, we had no tool.
Right.
There weren't many around, and those that were, we didn't have the budget for. I'm very good at doing the business requirement side of it. I can talk to you and say, Daniel, what makes this data good enough for you to use? And I can get some business requirements. You really do not want me writing SQL. The DBAs were very rude the last time I tried that, which was many years ago. So I
Right.
was a one person trying to do data governance for the whole of this company. And so I had to rely on begging and borrowing resources from the analytics team to do those reports for me. But it was a nightmare because somebody more important than me was always boosting their stuff to the top. Mine would get finally come up after much buying of coffees and cakes and whatever I could do to be nice to the team. And then exactly what you were describing. You'd go to the user and say, "This is what they've done," and they'll go, "Well, that's not an exception. We need to tweak the
Right.
rule, and we
Right.
need to do this." And I don't know. I was thinking this could make it so much more. You don't have to be a techie. You don't
No.
have to have the SQL skills available on the data governance or data quality team. You've got this AI can really help you with um, the perhaps the productive stuff, the stuff that just is tedious and takes time. But I was talking to somebody earlier, and they were talking about it's the difference between the boring stuff versus the thinking stuff. So the humans can still do the thinking. And I love your fact about you can ask it for as much help as you like. I think that would be amazing. I would be asking it for loads of help, I can assure you.
And thank you. I appreciate that. And what's great, and we love to tease our chief sales officer. He's an English major and in college, and if he can use DQ Pursuit, then anybody can use this. So he shows, and he does his demo, and he has these rules created by AI, right? And it's wonderful. And so that's we really feel that this has to be available for individuals. The other thing with DQ Pursuit is we have a read-only service account. We're not in the flow of touching your data, even though we have event-based monitoring and notification that live that is capable of monitoring the quality and creating the right notifications so that you don't move data along in your environment that doesn't meet your thresholds. So again, AI is critically important for us, but we are not touching your data. And I think that's one of the fears of we've heard from our clients is we need to ensure that we do no harm to the data. And of course, we wouldn't be worth our salt if we were impacting or changing your data. So we have the great controls set up in place with the read-only service account. And then we have what we call our George Carlin table of dirty words that we ensure are never placed into any interrogation scripts so that we can ensure that even if somebody were to try, that will never happen.
Excellent. Good. No, that sounds really good. And I think it sounds like you can use the AI to do the heavy lifting. And
Yes.
and then you can actually, but you're stopping it doing anything dangerous like changing data and
Absolutely, absolutely. And you were just mentioning the points of you had some business requirements that did, and then you were relying upon others to execute somewhere else. And the power of DQ Pursuit, and we're happy to demonstrate this at Big Data London, is it's a one container shop. It truly is. Like when you're there, it shows you your business focus areas. It shows you data quality. It writes the scripts. It provides dashboarding. It provides out of the box 2,500 glossary terms, business terms for your data, along with 5,000 data quality rules supporting those terms, right? So that's something that is unique about us in that we felt, hey, let's put this out there. Both our terms and our rules are editable. And so what that does is it creates a single container that's behind your firewall, and everything is done in one place. You don't have somebody writing a list of what's critical over here and then passing a piece of paper. It's all event-based flows, and it moves only within the environment, all the way through the container, including dashboards and KPI reporting. And the dashboards are executive levels, but as you know, no good dashboard. If you can't get to the underlying detail, right, you have that fully drill through capability for both data quality and data consistency. And that's one of the things we haven't touched upon yet is data consistency. So I've had the regulators ask, Daniel, how do you know your data is right? And I talk about all these scripts and I've shown them. And the true answer there is if you don't know that your data remains the same as it moves through your ecosystem, you really don't know that your data is right. And so from a data consistency perspective, in like half our platform is dedicated to this. It's understanding, from a critical data perspective, is your data the same from source to target? And we monitor that for you, as well as we not just do we check the data, is it the same? But do we ever have records in source not found in target and vice versa? Are there any records in target not found in source? So that's less about the critical data field and more about what's going on here. So we provide that level of insight that we feel helps answer that question. How do you know your data is right?
Yeah, very, very, very useful. So, gosh, I'm sure we could talk for loads, loads more hours about data quality. I'm sure, but keeping an eye on time because I like to keep these interviews bite size. Um, I love to finish off the podcast interviews asking my guests to give some advice for my listeners. And I think it's fair to say that for somebody who's just starting to look at data quality rules and reporting, it can be pretty overwhelming because you've got a lot of data, a lot of processes. So you clearly have got so much experience in this. What would be your advice? Where should somebody in that position begin?
I'll actually kind of go back to an answer I gave earlier, because honestly, data quality is probably the least challenging portion of where to start. It's really about understanding the areas that are your high risk or high value business processes that are relying upon data. Understanding what you wish to bring under data quality management is key. Ensuring that you've identified the right data owners, ensuring that you've documented how you're defining, how you're allocating your lines of business and those data owners supporting those lines of business. And then lastly, coming up with a clear and consistent means to identify what's critical for each one of those business processes. If you nail that, then doing the data quality side is a piece of cake. And I think that's where DQ Pursuit, I know this is where DQ Pursuit can come in and help you get up and running quickly in a very educated, knowledge-based learning approach to data quality, right? And so I would say harness your resources there, understand how you're going to do what you're going to do, focus on the data quality afterwards.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Daniel. I'm sure my listeners will have got an awful lot from this episode. It has been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much.
It's our pleasure, and thank you for having us. And we'll see everybody at Big Data London. Thank you.
Excellent. So I hope you found that interesting, and definitely if you are starting out in data quality, it can feel very overwhelming on what to start with first, but I think you find that there was so much useful advice given by Daniel in that episode that if that is a situation you're in, may well be worth re-listening to that one with your paper at hand, or even your AI note taker, who knows these days. So next week is the final episode of season 11. I can't believe how quickly time has flown. And we're closing the season with an interview with one of my good data friends, Rob Hawker. Now, Rob is a very experienced data governance practitioner. He knows so much about data quality. He's even written a book on the topic. And more latterly, he's got into business intelligence and data analytics. And we're going to have a chat about bringing all of those things together. So it's going to be a nice follow-on from our focus on data quality rules and reporting today. I do hope you would join me next week. I just know it's going to be a great conversation to end the season on.